Alright, thanks everyone for coming out to my speech. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Today I'm going to be talking about a very, very controversial topic. And that topic is Hiroshima and the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. Well, in my opinion, I think that the U.S. should definitely not have bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, it wasn't right morally, and some people argue that it wasn't even necessary. So, first of all, I'm going to tell you about Pearl Harbor, because without Pearl Harbor, there wouldn't have been Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Pearl Harbor was attacked by Japan in December 7th, 1941. Japan did not declare war before they attacked, so it was by complete surprise. That's just not fair. It's like against the war laws, or yeah. The U.S. took a good bit of damage at Pearl Harbor. Many Americans died. It is estimated that 2,400 Americans died. The U.S. also took a lot of damage, like with military equipment, things such as ships, that aircraft carriers is what they were called, and they lost, of course, the aircrafts, the planes and stuff, and that costed America a good bit of money, and they were upset about that, so they had to do something about it. But that still doesn't compare to the loss that Japan took at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It is estimated that at least 250,000 people died at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's a huge number. That's enough people to fill up 3 football stadiums. Just really awful stuff. Another reason for the U.S. was to use the bomb was to end the Pacific War early. At the time, the U.S. and Japan were fighting in the Pacific on various islands, and the U.S. and it was taking a really long time, and America was losing a lot of lives out there in the Pacific, and America was also spending a lot of money on the war effort, and so they were ready for the war to be over, and they thought that by using atomic bombs it would end the war, and eventually it did. After 2 atomic bombs, Japan surrendered, but both of the cities were completely destroyed. And just think about all the time it took to build the city, and like all the work that went into that, and how long it will take to rebuild the cities. It's horrible. The after effects of the bomb were really horrible as well. Many sicknesses started to occur after the bomb. Some of them are radiation sickness, eye diseases, and bone marrow depletion, cancers, leukemia. Radiation sickness was the most common, though. 90% of the population got radiation sickness after the bombs. And so some of the symptoms of radiation sickness are fever, really high fever, diarrhea, vomiting, sweating, and people would eventually like start to heal up, but then like weeks later they would just die. And most of the doctors died from the explosion, so they didn't have doctors to treat the patients and stuff, and it's really awful. Thousands of kids were left without parents after the bomb, and what are those kids without parents supposed to do? Most of them probably starved or died from not seeking health care for their injuries. The social effects were bad as well. Social services collapsed, and the communities that grew together just completely disintegrated, were gone at that point. And so, yeah, that's about it. So, thank you everyone for coming to my speech.